great science in orbit. And with that, we'll happily take any questions you guys have for us.
Perfect, thank you. All right, we'll start with questions. We'll take questions from our media on the phone and then also that have come in through social media. So if you are on the phone, please press *1 if you have a question. So let's start with Bill Harwood with CBS News.
Hey, thank you. Bill Harwood here at the Kennedy Space Center. For Kayla, how did 3 tours aboard the Maine prepare you for 6 months aboard the station? I mean, you know, they're both male-dominated, very isolated worlds. I mean, other than how you get there and how fast you're going, are they at all similar?
Yeah, you know, for me, the connections between serving on a submarine and serving aboard the space station are actually what inspired me to apply to be an astronaut in the first place. I didn't grow up with that specific goal in mind. I was aware of the space program, watched shuttle launches on TV, but it was never something I could really picture myself doing. I knew I wanted to serve and found my way eventually to the submarine force. And it wasn't until I had that experience of living and working beneath the surface of the ocean and made the connection to living and working in the vacuum of space and understanding the kind of team it took to do that successfully, not only to live and work, but to accomplish a really important mission. And all of those parallels are what gave me the confidence to think, you know, maybe that is something I could do someday, and inspired me to apply in the first place. So for me, the parallels are really endless, and I rely on the lessons I learned aboard my submarine and from the sailors, chiefs, other officers I worked with in that environment every single day in my training. And I think I'll only continue to recognize more and more similarities once we get into orbit.
All right, thanks. Next question is from Russell Pounds with Pacific Rim Media.
Good morning. I'm calling from Alaska today. This is for Kayla also. I know that you've had a strong commitment to school presentations and mentoring in general. Has there been a question or a discussion with a young person that you found particularly moving or inspirational? And just to add on to that, can you comment on your zero-G indicator?
I'll do the easy part of that question first, which is we're not going to comment on the zero-G indicator. We're going to give the zero-G indicator its time to shine during our launch, of course, as is tradition. But you know, my story and journey is really one of being mentored by some incredible leaders, teachers, coaches, my family, officers, chiefs in the Navy, who really brought me up in the world. And so for me, that really instilled a commitment to mentoring the people who are coming behind me. And I think some of my most treasured relationships are the young midshipmen who I mentored when I was serving at the Naval Academy, which I was back at the Naval Academy as a lieutenant when I applied to be an astronaut. And some of the most special relationships for me were I was the first woman from the submarine force to return to the Naval Academy as an officer. And so it was an opportunity for the midshipmen, the young women who were interested in maybe following in my footsteps, to learn from my experience. And I still am in touch with all of those women from that era, and they've become friends and colleagues and have gone on to serve on submarines. Some are just about to earn their submarine warfare qualification, and so I really follow their journeys closely and treasure those relationships. And I think what was so meaningful to me about them is how much they challenged my thinking as a leader, and how much they inspired me to want to continue to serve. I thought at the time to continue serving the submarine force, and I just got really lucky that I got this opportunity to come work at NASA. So I think those relationships are really meaningful, and I'm honored to serve as a role model and mentor to kids everywhere, and especially women interested in STEM fields.
All right, next question is from John Schofield with Sing Second Sports Podcast.
Thank you. Hey, Kayla, very good to hear your voice again. And, you know, dovetailing off of what you already talked about at the Naval Academy, walk me through a little bit what the physical mission, on top of what all of the academic and mental challenges that come a part of NASA training, how did you rely on your success as an athlete, an athletic career that was born at the Naval Academy? How did you rely on that to get through the tough times?
You know, I think the lessons for all of us in our athletic pursuits, really, we rely on them all of the time in our training as an astronaut. Some days more than others, but I think all of those experiences taught us how to work on teams in really tough environments, how to push ourselves beyond our own limits, how to rely on each other for support when it came to our weaknesses, and how a group of people who really trust and believe in each other can accomplish so much more together than they can on their own. I think the most proximate times I rely on those moments are during the more physical aspects of our training, like spacewalk training. I think for all of us, that's like one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing we do. And it's very similar to athletic pursuits, especially really strategic ones, because you're out. Well, in my case, I haven't done it in real life. Tom actually has. But our training in the neutral buoyancy lab is fairly similar. I think it's a strong analog. And so those procedures, we'll be out doing a spacewalk for 7 hours. And during that time, you have to maintain incredible mental focus. You're doing these really, really detailed tasks. And it's really physical because working in the suit is hard. And you're out there with just water. You don't have anything to eat. You don't have any calories to sort of keep you going. And so I think my experience playing basketball, but especially running, doing endurance sports, helped me learn, how to manage my output, how to surge when I need to, how to recover, and mostly how to stay focused and rely on the people around me to push me through those really challenging moments.
All right, now we'll take a question from the NASA social group. Christopher wants to know, hello Crew-3, did you get a chance to talk to the Inspiration crew or any of the crew that are already on board the space station about the Crew Dragon and what to expect?
So yeah, we actually did get a chance to meet with the Inspiration 4 crew before they launched. So they trained out at Hawthorne at SpaceX, which is also where we trained. So we did get a chance to meet with them both informally and formally, and then obviously follow their mission. And then the beauty of the commercial crew program with NASA is even though that was a private mission for Inspiration 4, NASA and SpaceX were still able to share lessons learned, look at the data coming back from their spacecraft, continue to roll in improvements, not just for our Dragon, but for future Dragons. And so we haven't really bothered Jared and his crew too much post-flight since they've got a really busy agenda. But yeah, we have definitely benefited from what they learned, and I think they also were able to benefit from our training and seeing how we handle different situations in the capsule. And so yeah, I think there's a great benefit there for both sides.
Okay, great. The next question will come from Amy Thompson with space.com.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. I was wondering, I know you guys train for a lot of different aspects of your space flight, so I was just wondering, what are you most looking forward to? Is it doing an EVA? Is it doing the science? Is it flying the capsule? Thanks.
Well, the easy answer to that question is yes. Certainly one of the pinnacles of your time up on board is having the opportunity to do a spacewalk. But what we're doing day to day in the laboratory is going to be what many of us look forward to the most. It's really special to be at the cutting edge of an event when we, with our eyes, see something that humans have never seen before. And of course, it's all on video as well as downlinked to the ground, and we can all share in what we're discovering together. And that's going to be our life, most of our life, as we're up there working in this incredible laboratory. But all the other activities, of course, are challenging, as Kayla mentioned, looking forward to them. For me personally, on my third flight, I'm also especially looking forward to flying with people that have not flown before, who I've never flown with before. And looking back on missions, it's your human interactions with your crewmates that become the most special.
All right, we'll take another question from Bill Harwood with CBS News.
Hey, thanks. For Tom Marshburn, you're the sixth person, I think, to find 3 different spacecraft. I know you haven't actually flown in the Crew Dragon yet, but how does it compare to the Soyuz in terms of creature comforts? It looks more roomy to us, looking at simulators, but obviously you don't have that upper compartment.
Yeah, it's where you're sitting in the seat, and the seats themselves are roomier. But the physics of getting up into space and how efficient you have to be with mass to get us up there along with our craft. Spacecraft are inevitably going to be a little bit small unless we have some huge advance in technology. So there's going to be, I suspect, more similarities. I don't know yet, but more similarities than differences, cosmetic differences as well. We love our current spacecraft. I find beauty in all the spacecraft I've flown before, even if it's more technical than otherwise. But I think the physics is going to determine our experience, how we stage, the acceleration we feel, how long we are under that acceleration. But can't wait to see if there's any nuances in the differences between them.
All right, we'll take another question from social. Kyle wants to know, for Raja, take us through your day tomorrow, which is a full-up dress rehearsal for the entire launch team.
Yeah, so Kyle, we've done several task trainers. We call them partial task training, where we do bits and pieces of events. And then tomorrow what we'll do is go essentially through the entire launch day from the time we get up, doing weather briefings, getting suited up, going out to the walkout, heading to the pad, and then really the exercise from the physical standpoint is all the tasks of us getting in the vehicle, getting strapped in, the white room team, that's the people who close out the area that the crew arm attaches to the rocket, getting them to go through all the checks they would normally do, to include hatch leak checks, having us do leak checks in the suit, powering up the vehicle, doing comm checks, and then even starting to make sure all the prop valves are ready to go for prop loading, offloading, and basically go through as close as we can get to actual launch day without actually launching off the pad. And so that's the plan. And then at the back end of that, we'll do a simulated scrub to go through essentially all the stuff that would be associated with that and make sure we do it safely, because you have to undo all that in a very safe manner and depressurize things and make sure the capsule and the rocket are completely safe for us to come off the pad. And so really it's from a physical standpoint, a test for the pad team that's doing all the work to get us safely in and out of the rocket. And then for the larger team, all the comm loops will be active, all the relays, and so getting everyone synced up to make sure there's no, day of, man, this computer wasn't plugged in and we didn't know that. So it's making sure all those loops are powered on and exercised and ready for the real day.
All right, we have a question from Ian on Twitter for Matthias. You will be welcomed by Thomas Pesquet. Will you bring any presents for him, and will you celebrate the fact that 2 ESA astronauts are in space at the same time, and if so, how?
Yes, definitely we will celebrate, like meeting a European in space and being now the second European and having like a long time of Europeans in space. It's not only Thomas and me, but after me is also Samantha Cristoforetti, who will be in space. So it's 1.5 years of Europeans in space. It's a first, and it's very important for Europe, for the European Space Agency. We will celebrate. Unfortunately, I will not bring anything special for Thomas because all the stuff is already up there. It's all been manifested some months ago, but there is some stuff in there to celebrate, and it's still a secret.
All right. We'll take a question from Ken Creamer with Space Up Close. All right.
Today, thank you for that. I want to follow up with some questions for Matthias in German and English. Again, can you describe the work you're going to do with the European robotic arm, and also talk about Simon Astronaut Assistance? Bitte beschreiben die europäische Roboterarm und mit Simon Astronaut Assistent. Dankeschön.
Yes, so several months ago we launched the European robotic arm on the Russian module, the MLM. And so the arm is out there. Now we need to activate it. It's still being attached to the module. Now we need to open these attachments. We need to install it, add some video cameras. Then we check it out. And then this arm will be able to bring science payloads through a Russian airlock from the inside of the station towards the outside, and then we are able to run experiments on the outside without performing a spacewalk. So that's very important, and Thomas Pesquet already did some checkouts, then I will do some checkouts. I hope also to have a spacewalk involving the activation of the arm, and later on Samantha Cristoforetti will also perform a spacewalk to continue on the ERA works. Simon, it's a piece of artificial intelligence that we bring up to space, and it's an experiment which is really paving the way towards exploration. Imagine being on the moon or later on Mars, where you have a huge time lag between your spaceship and the ground. And if you have a question, for example, do I need to bring back this stone or this rock here? It takes up to 20 minutes one way from Mars to Earth. And so again, 20 minutes for the answer. And that's obviously not a way that you can work. So you need to have an expert with you. And that can be a geological expert. It can be a medical expert. And well, this expert is now the form of artificial intelligence. So we test it up in the space station. My Simon colleague will walk me through a procedure, give me some recommendations, and in case my crew makes me feel sad, Simon will tell me a joke. So the short version now in German. Ja, wir haben den europäischen robotischen Arm oben an der Station. Der Arm ist noch verbunden mit dem Modul MLM, den müssen wir jetzt dann loslösen und aktivieren. Teil dieser Aktivierung wird von innen durchgeführt, ein Teil davon auch außen während eines Weltraumspaziergangs. Und ich hoffe darauf, dass ich dann auch einen Weltraumspaziergang durchführen darf. Später kommt auch Samantha Cristoforetti, sie wird auch einen Spaziergang durchführen. Also ist ja eigentlich kein Spaziergang, sondern harte Arbeit an der Außenfläche der Station. Und mit diesem robotischen Arm können wir Experimente außen durchführen, ohne dass wir einen extra Weltraumspaziergang durchführen müssen. Simon ist ein Stück künstliche Intelligenz. Das brauchen wir zur Vorbereitung für die Exploration, weil wir nicht immer einen Experten für alles mitnehmen können. Und so ist es wichtig, dass wir mittels künstlicher Intelligenz das ganze Wissen immer dabei haben.
All right, next question from Joey Roulette with the New York Times.
Hey, thanks. For Raja and Kayla, you're both part of the Artemis astronaut corps. I was just wondering if you guys have any specific duties you'll be carrying out on the ISS that relate to walking on the moon or anything else that you might expect on Artemis missions. Thanks.
Thanks, Joey. So as part of the Artemis team, both Kayla and I really aren't necessarily training for a specific mission with Artemis, more helping with the development. But to your question, you know, one of the things we'll both be helping, actually all of us will be working on, is what we call exploration technology. So a lot of the life support systems that we use on the station, they're either changing out components or adding new capability to that we can then see if that will work for the long term. It's reliable for exploration missions. And so on the space station, it gets really far away, obviously, but it's you know, close enough to Earth that we can troubleshoot problems, whereas on the moon and eventual Mars missions, if something breaks, you don't have the chance to fix that. And so we're using the station as a test bed for some of those technologies to make sure they will work on those further out missions.
Yeah, and I would just add that in addition to using the space station to kind of do research and development, think about a lot of those technologies and operational concepts. I think for us as members of the Artemis generation, you know, this group of astronauts who's looking forward to returning to the moon and returning to the moon soon and to stay with human beings, boots on the moon. For us, the opportunity to visit the space station, this incredible engineering marvel that we've been serving on continuously for 2 decades now, is the best possible training for us in terms of personal development and the opportunity to learn from the experienced people who we get to go to space with, people like Tom, Mark Vande Hei, who we'll meet there, but also from the operational team on the ground and mission control. That experience is so mature, and so getting the opportunity to be a part of that before we're pushing the boundaries and doing things we've never done before is a huge opportunity for us to develop and think about our role in those future missions, whether it's on one of the crews or supporting the team from the ground in mission control or in other parts of, you know, the ops concepts, planning EVAs and things like that. So we feel really lucky to have the opportunity to visit the space station and be a part of that legacy.
All right, we'll take the next question from social media. For Raja and Kayla, you're the first of your turtle classmates to launch to space. Are your classmates doing anything special for you?
Yes, the turtles are always scheming a little bit. There were plans for a pretty epic send-off that unfortunately kind of got quashed just due to concerns about COVID and kind of us trying to stay healthy before launch, which is really important. But just yesterday when we were driving to Ellington Field to take off to come here to Kennedy Space Center, there was a whole bale of turtles, as we've learned a group of turtles is called, along with some fantastic people from our office there along the road cheering us on. So we definitely feel the turtle love and support, and we're really excited for the chance to potentially welcome some of our classmates during our mission for the turtle takeover the space station. So we couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, as Kayla alluded to, there's more turtles on the way behind us. So, slowly but surely, the turtle way.
That's awesome. All right, we have a question for Matthias from Facebook. What does this mean back home for you and your family for you to reach this point?
Well, it's like I applied some 13 years ago to become an astronaut. So, and for my family and me, it's a huge support that I received during all those years to follow my dream. And now, actually flying to space, it's a huge reward. It's paying off all the hard work during these 13 years. And it's just another indicator that if you want to reach or fulfill yourself a dream, you need to have some stamina and just never stop dreaming.
All right. We'll take another question from the phone. John Schofield with Sing Second Sports Podcast.
Thank you. One more question for Kayla. Kayla, you're part of now a long blue line of Naval Academy astronauts. In fact, I remember vividly being on a trip to Houston with you as we talked to Sunita Williams about her experience and seeing your excitement about the space program build there. What's it like to be down there with Nicole Anapu, to be around people like Chris Cassidy? Have you heard from Naval Academy astronauts from present and past? And how do you feel about carrying that mantle forward as yet another member of this Naval Academy class of astronauts?
Yeah, I think about those connections and relationships all of the time. I wouldn't have applied to be an astronaut if I hadn't met Naval Academy graduates who became astronauts and who really encouraged me to believe in myself and believe that that dream was possible. It's just a fantastic group of mentors and friends. Both those that are retired from the office, people like Wendy Lawrence, who sent me an email yesterday wishing me luck on the mission, kind of brought tears to my eyes because I still fangirl over Wendy every time I get a chance to see her, along with Sunny Williams, who I still can't believe that she's my colleague and I walk by her in the halls because I think she's a hero to so many young women who aspire to careers in STEM and aspire to be astronauts. And so working with people like Nicole, flying in the T-38 with her, Chris Cassidy, getting advice for him about preparing for spacewalks, it's an incredible legacy to be a part of, and I take that responsibility and privilege really seriously and hope to continue to make that community proud.
All right, we'll take a question from Joey Roulette with New York Times.
Taking my question again. For all the astronauts, after the Inspiration 4 flight, Elon Musk said he would add a food warmer to Crew Dragon, and I was curious whether you all would find that useful or find other similar amenities that spring out of tourist experiences useful like that. Thanks.
Amenities. Yeah, so I think it's, for us, I mean, I'm sure we'd use it. If, well, why not? It's a slightly different mission in the sense of being the end destination on the I-4 mission being to stay in the capsule and live there long term, if you will, or longer term than we'll be there, versus the purpose that we're using it to is essentially a ferry vehicle to get to and from our science objectives and mission on the space station. Yeah, we would happily take more amenities, but at the same time, I don't know that we would have the same need or want for them. I think the cool thing, though, is, as a lesson out of the I-4 mission, they are kind of figuring out what things do you absolutely need or what things would be nice to haves. And I think that's the same thing. We ask a lot of the same questions as we look at exploration missions and Artemis. A lot of the things that we take for granted on the space station, you may not have in a much smaller capsule or when you first start establishing boots on the ground and a sustainable presence on the moon. But you have to figure out some way to start with what you need and then build up to what you want and figure out the right trade of science and logistics as you look at those missions. So it's a great question in terms of thinking through that, the priorities of those different things. So yeah, if there's a food warmer, we'll use it, but I don't think we're planning to sneak one on for our particular mission.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you Crew-3 for answering the questions, and we're excited to see you launch. Our next media event will be the Science Media Telecon. That is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on nasa.gov/live. You can learn about all the science these guys will be working on the space station. And be sure to tune in for their launch Sunday, October 31st at 2:21 a.m. Eastern Time. Coverage will start at 10 p.m. Eastern Time on nasa.gov/live or on the NASA app. And you can follow the crew and NASA on social media for updates. Thanks for joining, and go Crew-3.